Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to our review of Hawkeye, our continuing reviews of the Disney Plus series Hawkeye. We are continuing through all of this. So I'm stumbling, and we sort of were joking on just before then about me not remembering which show we were starting. And here as I start up. So, no, we are jumping into episode 3, Echoes of Hawkeye. Joining me every week for the run of their show, we have, of course, right next to me from Smirking Reviews, Rob Stone.
What's up, everybody? It's good to be here on another lovely Thursday night. It's like 60 degrees here, so it's winter can stay away. We got nice Hawkeye to talk about here today. Definitely a way different type of episode than we got the last two. Ready to dive in. And with that, we have to talk about the man that is here joining us tonight, Mr. Agent Williams himself. Don Willi is here.
Hey, what's going on? Happy to be here. Oh boy, oh boy. And look at that. Look at that. Oh my god. Yes. Because you know me and my hats.
For the win, Don. For
Very
the
jealous.
win this week. That is awesome.
Thank you. Oh boy. This is gonna be an interesting one.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into this real quick. Just want to be sure to thank, of course, Silver Surfer joining us live as always. Always good to see you. And everybody, of course, who is joining us in the archives, in the chat. Thank you for taking time to spend a little with us. And if you do enjoy the show, please be sure to hit that like button and subscribe and all of that. We've got not only this show, but you're watching the group that's going to be watching the Book of Boba Fett. That's right. Book of Fandalorian's coming to you at the end of this month. So kind of a sneak preview going on for you tonight. Well, let's dive into things. Of course, we were talking about episode 3, Echoes. We have, of course, Kate and Clint both captured by the Tracksuit Mafia. But we open this episode a little bit different. But let's just go into kind of our general thoughts on this. Rob, why don't you lead us off here? What did you think of this week's episode?
Well, like you said, it took a second viewing for me to really appreciate this episode more than I did the first time. The first time I spent a lot of like going back and making sure I heard things correctly, making sure that for like my notes and things like that, I was getting everything in there. But it felt a little, I don't know what it was. It felt a little off the first viewing, but the second viewing was much, much better. I really like where we're going. I really enjoyed the action sequences in this quite a bit. I liked how they filmed. Like there were so many good ways that they filmed all this stuff, but also some really good messages in this episode as well. And different. I like how there's a lot of similarities in everybody's kind of motivations, just coming at it from different perspectives that we'll get into more as far as like why Kate's doing what Kate's doing, why Echo's doing what Echo's doing, why Clint does what Clint does. And I think that there's a lot of really cool stuff that we have to talk about.
Right on. All right, Don, what about yourself? What have you been thinking about the series so far? And especially, what do you think about this week's episode?
So look, it's kind of crazy because Hawkeye is pretty much the only original Avenger that didn't get his own movie, right? But I think that this format works better for him. I think that, for one, the storytelling and the filmmaking has been phenomenal. And then two, we didn't get much in the way of a backstory for Clint. So this kind of, even though this isn't necessarily a backstory so much, it still fleshes out the character in a way that we really haven't gotten since Age of Ultron, really. Yeah, we got the whole thing with him being Ronin in Endgame, but there wasn't there wasn't much for Clint to do, uh, throughout his run in the MCU, and so I think that this is a good way to reestablish the importance of the character and what he can bring to the table, and also have some fun. I mean, listen, this episode was a blast. So I can't wait to get into it and talk with him more about. Oh, excuse me. Talk more. Why am I tongue tied? Talk more with you guys about this.
It's contagious. That's quite all right. I got it right at the top of the episode. Want to be sure to take a moment. Wes Sager joining us live in the chat. Wes, it is so awesome to see you. You are the man. And sorry about what's going on with the A's, brother. It sucks. But yeah, I think you actually hit a really good point there. One, yeah, this show, because you get more character work, and look, Jeremy Renner is amazing, and he's really using this time well. I think this is a much better way to tell his story as opposed to a movie. And in a way, you hit it perfect. We never got a real origin story, but again, we're getting an end story with Clint through this. We're getting a reverse of that because we're seeing, I think, and we really hit a lot of it in through this episode, which is what I think Rob hit with the humanity of it, is the price everything has paid. How much all he wants to do is wrap this up and go home. He doesn't want to be a superhero anymore. He never wanted to be, and this is just him really kind of doing that exit. And perhaps in a way, we're really seeing in this episode that beginning of the passing of the torch, which I think was another really, really cool moment. So, yeah, I know I'm excited about this episode, and I agree with Rob. It's better on the second view, or at least it was for me, because my first viewing, I think, is where Rob was last week. Yeah, the magic from last week had kind of left me. It was a little formulaic, was a little okay. We're seeing the beats and the moves, and there's only really like 5 scenes. I think the 37 minutes of runtime or so that it was really also made it feel short, and thus maybe a little less satisfying. There wasn't as much. It was like they're captured at the beginning, and at the end, they're kind of also back in another predicament. But there's also a lot of real great backstory and moments that this episode played with, and like also Rob hit some phenomenal little action sequences. So I think it's a good little bridge. Not my favorite bit, but I'm excited to see where they're going to go from it. So let's get into the episode itself. We of course lead this episode off with not Clint and Kate, but Echo. A deaf character, a native character, a brand new character. And this is sort of how we lead this off. We were introduced to her at the end of last episode, and we get her whole kind of her origin story. First, 7-10 minutes, I think, of the episode. Very concise. I think very well done. Don, what did you think of our introduction to Echo and what her backstory kind of implies on top of that?
So this was interesting because you get to see someone from, I guess, the villain's perspective, and we get something that makes them a little sympathetic. So you see her with her dad, him telling her that, hey, she's gonna have to go to regular school, and him trying to reassure her that she's gonna be able to navigate in the world that she's in, and he's gonna help her. And then fast forward to years later, now she's a good fighter. She's learned how to navigate the world by using her remaining senses, especially sight. And she's overcome a couple of handicaps in that regard, because one thing that that it took me a minute to realize was the fact that she actually has one leg amputated. And so I'm like, the fact that she's able to, do the things that she does, A, while not being able to hear, and B, um, while having, while only having technically one, biological leg, um, man, oh man, she is kicking ass and taking names. And yeah, apparently, got somebody else here who likes to echo talk as well. And listen, you know what? Her uncle. Wonder who that could possibly be.
Yeah, that's definitely a fun thing to dive into there. So yeah, Rob, what about yourself? What did you think of the opening on this, and how we are introduced to Echo again, a newer character in the comics line, one that I'm not very familiar with, but I'm really excited to see where they're going with.
Yeah, this is really exciting. One of the big complaints we always have is that people say the villains in the Marvel universe aren't very compelling. They're not very memorable. But I feel like the longer we've been going, I have to disagree with that, especially long term when we get these characters, especially like street level characters, that are more human, more like Clint, that are just people that have been able to take something like a handicapped and turn it into something else. That's not necessarily super powered, just seems that way. And again, also giving the rich backstory of where this person comes from and the world that they know, the only world that they know, explaining why they are who they are now and all the influences that can, depending on who you're dropped into this world with, whatever environment you're in, can make you become certain things. Look at, and we'll go all the way back to Agent Ward for Agents of Shield. Like looking at nurture and nature and nurture. And what's I had to throw that in there, Don. It's just all the different ways. Like she's obviously in a family that's in organized crime. Her father played by Zahn McClarnon, who is a fantastic character actor who's been doing it for a while. I remember him on Fargo as just so scary and but also like in this, knowing he's a crime guy but seeing the softer side of a criminal and how they feel about their family, and and you can be mad at them, but you can also for their choices that they're making, but you can also see like what people of any walk of life are willing to do for family in this. And I really liked the little girl actress. She had to do a lot with a little. She had to do a lot of, if you can't use your, if you're not going to talk, you have to use a lot with your face. And she did a really good job. I thought that they edited around the fight that she has, I thought was really, really good. Cause they didn't have to get into a big action sequence. They just show her paying attention. The way that they were able to encapsulate her noticing things and reading things, I thought was all really well visual storytelling, and not having to, have somebody explain everything to us. And also, yes, we will have to get into who the uncle is. I've been rewatching Daredevil all this week, just because I mean, oh my god, you guys! I mean, it was worth the backstory to take that long, just to have the uncle touch her face, and you go, I know who that is. It's Mephisto. No, it's not.
Nice,
but it's better. and what we're probably getting is going to be something that has been coming for a long time.
Yeah, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. I'm so kidding. Yeah, I completely agree. Wes mentioned in the chat how good Marvel has been at casting. And was it Alaqua Cox? This is her first job. This is her first acting gig or pro gig. I mean, I'm sure she's done some stuff, but this is like, and talk about a good cast. How is she made comfortable on this first set Marvel series? Super nervous. Both Haley and Jeremy greet her in ASL. That's the kind of show we're working with here. I'm sorry. The more I learn about some of this back stuff, it really kind of warms my heart on top, because you're right. That little girl has to sell that initially. And in a very quick couple scenes, not a lot of time, nothing said, they do everything they need to. Dawn, you had mentioned about, her relying on her other senses, especially her eyes. Rob, you're mentioning the observation. The other thing they establish very quickly is how smart she is. She guesses interprets what's going on, turns the page of the book, does the whole lesson while the teacher is teaching what that lesson is supposed to be. I think it's a perfect way of illustrating how smart she is, how much that she isn't, how much she's underestimated. In fact, I think probably because of her either being deaf or being a girl or both, and a native. There's a lot of prejudices that are kind of laid on top of this type of character. And yes, giving us that soft point. Yeah, these are criminals, but this is how they interact with family. She's not raised thinking her dad's a criminal or anything like that. He's just dad. And of course, why would she have this, great streak of vengeance against Ronan? Well, Ronan kills her dad. I believe Ronan substituting for Daredevil from the comics run in here in some ways. I think that's sort of the overlay that we've got. And this is a great choice and a great way to, again, introduce this character and start to introduce this Daredevil world. Because, yeah, we get the uncle touch, which is nice. They're working at Fat Man Auto Repair, which I think is another nice little bit. And there's a few other little things we'll get on over on about who the uncle is. And yeah, by the end of this discussion, we'll definitely be talking about that. But we got to hold the suspense for a little bit longer. But yeah, I love the introduction. Love the character. Love the motivation behind it. And a great way to then bring us into, I think, kind of an interesting triad here, because we have her, we have, of course, Clint, who is losing his hearing, and that sort of plays a big role into the upcoming scene. And then, of course, we've got Kazi, who is sort of the interpreter, but from the comics is the one actually responsible for Clint's hearing loss. Stabs him in he's the I think Kazi's the head of the tracksuit Draculas in the comics, and stabs Clint in the ears with arrows, and that's what sort of causes his hearing loss. So the fact that they're able to bring this character in and sort of serve a similar sort of a placement role, I think is really nice. And the fact that this is where he's losing his hearing, and in fact does lose it in this scene that we're about to talk up next. I don't know. I always love the little soft bridges that they're able to do for the show. But yeah, let's get into our Clint and Kate story. We've got the interrogation and, of course, a super cool escape. Rob, why don't you lead us off on that one?
Well, this is, I think, like where I needed the second viewing, because it just kind of was like the same thing going on, the same dynamic. You're mad at me. It's been going on now it's going to carry on through the rest of this show, is her growing and learning from her mistakes, and him looking exasperated. And I think that just after the first two episodes, it was a little like, okay, yeah. But what I liked about this was, again, we keep talking about the hearing situation where she comes out, right, and she's again observing the situation before she's acting. She focuses in on his ear. She's talking to him. There's like this isn't something that just escalates. There's an actual conversation that happens between villain and hero, like to actually try to come to an understanding of what's going on instead of threatening to break bones and stuff. I really like that. We don't see that enough. Everything is always give us what we want or we'll kill you or hurt you or whatever. I like they were actually having dialogue, even though if a lot of it was through interpreter or through hand, with ASL. I liked her immediately talking to him about, having too much technology when he's the guy with the bows and arrows, is really cool. And her Kate just kind of sitting there like they actually chose to not have her speak. And then when she does, like, she does do what he chooses his words carefully, and she just kind of lets everything out all the time. And they bring that up. And I like also that he doesn't, the usual joke is like, is she always like that? And they're like, well, no, he doesn't say anything. He just lets it land there. He doesn't have to pile on her and make her feel worse than she already does. That's not the whole point of this. In fact, most of this, like he's saying, we're getting out of this, is more like another lesson that he's got to show her. And while she's trying to just be a part of it, he's showing her how you get out of these situations by doing what Echo's doing, observing, listening. She's talking about communication that they don't have any, but he's communicating the whole time, and the bad guys are communicating the whole time. The only one who's not really listening to me is her yet. But each time something happens, she does pick it up and she does learn from things. But also in this scene, I just love that we finally get to see Clint's skills, like really in a tight situation. Very impressed. And that last shot, that he takes to free her was just really, really cool. And again, I like Hawkeye a lot. Every time Hawkeye does something with a bow and arrow, I love it. And I still don't know why he's not more loved by the fandom as he is to me, at least. But going into the chase and everything, I just really, really at first. But then by the end of it, I really, really liked this scene.
Sorry, is that working now? See, I'm relying too much on technology, but that's also how we're able to talk to all of you through all of this. So, it's a balance point. But yeah, Don, what did you think about this scene? Like I said, but nobody could hear. Let's stick with the interrogation to the escape, but before the chase. We'll hold off on the chase for a minute.
So I thought it was interesting. Here you have Clint, who's like, okay, look, if you wouldn't have, decided that you wanted to play superhero, if you wouldn't have decided you wanted to play superhero, we might not be in this mess. And she's just like, okay, well, but we're here now, so teach me something. Like she's observant, but she's so eager to learn and put whatever she's learned to use that that's kind of how she wound up in the situation that she's in. Look, enthusiasm can be great, but sometimes too much enthusiasm can ultimately land you in hot water, as you can see up there, right? So it's one of those things where, for one, I like the character of Kate Bishop because she's somebody who kind of reminds me of a younger Clint a little bit in terms of her being a little too overconfident in situations where it's like, no, you don't have the experience or the hmm, I would say maybe the fortitude, no, the durability, the physical durability to to handle if this goes very, very, very wrong. You know, and her back and forth when she's trying to get information out of the tracksuit mafia guy when he's talking to his wife about he got tickets to, I forget what the show is.
Imagine Dragons, more
Yeah,
dragon references.
yes, and she he's like, yeah, okay, well, she doesn't like Imagine Dragons. He was like, yeah, well, who does? He was like, I love Imagine Dragons. And it's one of those things where, yeah, sometimes you got to learn just to listen and not talk because that could have gone really bad really quickly. Just you insulted the man's favorite band. Yeah, so yeah, it was just one of those things where you know that was a lot more Kate and her interactions, and Clint just kind of saying, "Okay, what am I going to do to get out of here?" And when he finally does do his thing and gets out, it was very uh, like it shows you why he's an Avenger. You know, he might be the guy with the bow and arrows, but he was basically kicking everyone's ass except for Echo. So I love when he's up against Echo, and I'm pretty sure he's thinking at this point, hey, I was an agent of Shield, I'm an Avenger, or at least I was an Avenger, and I'm the best best archer on the planet. This isn't going to be too tough. And then he gets kicked in the head, gets the hearing aid knocked out of his ear, and then it's like, oh, okay, this is going to be interesting now. So love that entire sequence. Can't wait to watch it again. And hopefully my girlfriend won't be mad at me this time. I was supposed to watch it with her. Almost forgot about this stream. I was like, oh damn, I gotta watch this for review.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to make amends there with and not run into that Imagine Dragon situation with her. But yeah, I have to agree with both. This was really fun. It's good seeing one. I got to say that actually, I think Kate talking, even though she did kind of mess up, and this is about of her stumbling, or as Wes mentioned, reminds us in the chat here, that ridiculous overconfidence that Clint talks about. But she does kind of connect and in a way sort of get rid of him to sort of start to clear out areas. She does have a point with her communication and discussion and trust type kind of thing. However, this perhaps not exactly the moment to try and do all of that. Yeah, beautiful little escape. I love the shot. I gotta say that the one kind of really fun shot I love, and I know it's totally cheesy, but the shark bit when he's in the ball pit and he dives underneath, and it's just, you just see the ball wave kind of moving. Look, I know it's cheesy, and of course, he's gonna jump up and grab the guys or stab them or push them, and he gets them with the arrows. But it's still fun, and it keeps that sort of lighthearted bit. I mean, that was one of the little bits things that I did really enjoy with this. I also loved Kate after her escape doing the run and dive and floor swing around to knock Kazi over. Again, just kind of a cool little bit. Was it super effective? I don't know. It looked good. It was fun. But yeah, suddenly, as soon as Clint loses his hearing, things do change. And to me, this was the fun part, and this is where we actually get to see that transition, because we get to our big chase, and that's led off with the fact is that Clint can't hear. She's the only one that can hotwire, can't communicate or hear what Kate is saying, has to sort of make a lot of assumptions. And by the time the Tracksuit Mafia gets in, she can't drive. He's the one behind the wheel, and that's how they get off. Now, I know he is awesome, but he did a much better job than I think Kate would have in the whole driving thing. So I think ultimately we had people in their right places. Oh God, but this was just the opening long shot, and you guys know how much I love long single camera shots of just spinning and tracking and spinning and the car going and back and oh, that was just beautiful. And I loved, you could just feel everyone in that moment was just awesome. And when Kate reaches back to grab the bow and arrow, it's like, okay, now we are seeing this switch. And that's what I think this scene was ultimately all about. While it was a great scene, this was Clint seeing that Kate actually has something there. There is skill. There is something you can trust, to the point where even at the end where he was like, look, I can't hear you. I'm just going to assume that you're on board with this. At that point, it's just like, I need to trust that you're doing this and we're all synced up. And it's where we get to see how the two of them are very similar, which was cool. Don, let's circle back around the other way here. What did you think? Let's get up to the whole chase sequence, the chase, the shots, the not regular arrows, and of course, our big finale end of scene there. Go ahead.
So, first off, Kate wants to take the Challenger, one of my favorite old school and new school cars, and Clint is like, "No, I'm not going to wreck a '68 Challenger. Not going to do that."
72 Challenger, man.
Okay, all right. Sorry, I've only watched it once. So he's like, yeah, I'm not trying to wreck the Challenger. No, I'm gonna go and hotwire this Oldsmobile. And I mean, man, you know what? Being in New York nowadays, you don't see too many of those old boats. Every now and then, and from now on, whenever I see a car that is 20 feet long, I'm going to be reminded of this episode. So, you know, I love the fact that we got to see his driving skills and the back and forth between the two, because he can't hear anything that she's saying. She's just yakety yakety yak. What's this one do? What about this? What about that? And she, you know, like when she's like, "Oh, this would be so much better if we would turn the other way," and he's like, "Yeah, this would be better if we turn the other way, wouldn't it?" You know, absolutely hilarious. But I mean, like the long take. Oh my god, spectacular, spectacular. Now, look, being a New Yorker as well, I could tell the parts that were not shot in New York, because I know the streets, you know, and I'm just like, okay, because I'm trying to remember whether or not they're supposed to be in Brooklyn or Manhattan. I did recognize the bridge that they crossed over, which is the Manhattan Bridge. No, sorry, the Williamsburg Bridge. Um, but the thing about it was I'm like, wait, are they supposed to be going from Manhattan to Brooklyn or from Brooklyn to Manhattan? That was the thing that kind of got me, because if they were going from Brooklyn to Manhattan, then maybe they might be able to get away with all, you know, that the trick driving that was going on. But if it was the other way around, I'm like, no, there's no way in hell they did all of that in Manhattan. It's not happening. But I love, you know, that she's going through all the different arrows, you got to the suction cup arrow, and she's just like, a suction cup arrow? That's it? That's all it does? But hey, when it came in handy, it came in handy. And so I absolutely loved. I mean, because think about it, right? We had a Green Arrow show for what, 8 years, and I think that in this one sequence we got more trick arrows than in the entire 8 seasons of that show. So kudos to the writers and the director for saying, hey, you know what, we're throwing everything kitchen sink included in here because they just want to show how effective Hawkeye actually can be. And come on, the Pym arrow. Oh man, that was awesome. That was awesome because who was expecting that at all? You know, like no one's thinking he's running around with an Ant-Man, Pym particle arrow, just waiting to enlarge or possibly shrink something. Amazing, amazing. I mean, and then when he caught the bad guys off guard with that one, you know. So yeah, I absolutely love that entire sequence. Excuse me. Pardon. The only drawback is that the Challengers still got destroyed anyway.
Yeah, with Pym arrows, it's definitely good who you know. And they're kind of buddies. You got to think. I mean, they've already had a good little relationship, but we don't know about that whole 5-year period thing, but they were close enough. Rob, what about yourself? What did you think of the whole car chase and action sequence and escape?
This was another part that definitely got better on the second viewing. Now, not to say take anything away from like the one shot or anything like that. There were a couple of things that took me out of it the first time watching it. One was the kind of some of the bad CGI with the trick arrows. They just looked really like a cartoon on top of reality. And there were a few shots that you could tell were on a soundstage that were like filmed like with just them in the car and stuff going by. So the first time I saw that, it was a little jarring where I was like, but second time through, for some reason, I just didn't notice as much. And I was looking and I found myself, just because I was enjoying it more, I stopped caring it as much, but it's still there. I just want to point it out so that we don't like just completely ignore the things that need to be not critical of, but like just
we're not chills, man. We're not
Yeah.
chills.
Yeah, I mean, but otherwise, it was really, really cool how they did it. How they were basically finishing each other's sentences, but a sentence too late or a little early. I loved. Again, so much of this episode feels like it's about communication and observation and motivations, and they did that really well. So getting this like nice long car chase was a nice breath of, like to really show us that what, like the fun that we can have in this show, because a lot of this is like a lot of these Marvel shows are setups for bigger things in the movies. But this show, the way that they're balancing not just the passing of the torch, and setting up other things and making the larger world, but this show is really giving us a really good story set in the holidays that does feel like a comic book that's set at Christmas time. A lot of these holiday issues that you can get around this time, there's usually like a handful every year around the holidays. You'll get it's the Christmas issue, and they're usually just pointless nothings. but every once in a while you'll get like a good story out of one of these holiday type or something centered around a holiday, and this one's nailing it. And just having this car chase in the middle of this really felt like something that I really needed from this show, which was an episode that has like a lot of action mixed with lots of character. And again, showing, like you said, like they were in the right spot. Her driving would have been what I was worried that this episode might do, which is because they're not communicating normally, that it would just turn into a crap show, and that they'd fail, and you know, and they wouldn't get away, and they'd maybe get recaptured or something like that. But no, this was the moment to show that she has skills, like Dom is pointing out, that she does know what she's doing, and they had a lot of fun showing us how they get to that. And with the Pym arrow was just, when I saw the Pym on the side of it, I was just like, oh my God, we're gonna get something cool. And my goodness, did we get that one thing was one of the coolest things to me that they've ever done in the MCU. Anytime you get Pym particles and Hawkeye, and you know, like remember in Civil War when he's on the end of the arrow, which is an iconic moment from the comics, and just, you know, okay, arrow guy, you know, like let me, you know, like it's nice to see these just really cool. That's an MCU moment, not just a small screen moment. When that thing just turns huge, that's the moment where the audience cheers.
Yeah.
That's the moment where everybody goes, oh yeah. So I mean, you can do that in the small screen stuff as well. But the thing is like, I don't really remember that many moments so far yet in all the shows that would have been that big of a moment of the yeah moment. Like when you know Cap picked up Thor's hammer and the whole audience goes, oh yeah, it's happening. There's been moments like that are speckled throughout these shows, but like not like, I'm trying to like, that weren't just like fun Easter eggs. That were just that I'm really racking my brain.
No,
Like,
I wish I could jump in and help you on that.
Because a lot of like, I feel like a lot of WandaVision dealt with like just really, it was cool, but it didn't have like any yeah moments. Maybe when Vision shows up, you know, as White Vision, that was really cool. Like that's an yeah moment, but that's more like a comic book thing.
Yeah, I think they had like reveals.
Yeah,
you know,
like
you get to see when you get to see Wanda come out in her costume and stuff. It's like, but that's not what you're talking about. That audience stand up where you'd be like, yeah, that was, and you're right. And it was totally earned because of, like you said, the Civil War moment and those little past bits where you go, oh, he would have a Pym arrow, wouldn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. And I just feel like that's kind of lacking so far in all the rest of the shows are those moments, because we spend so much time looking for Easter eggs and speculating that we're not getting those moments. And in that one little bit, we got that yeah moment, and I feel like that's only the first of a few more that are probably going to be coming, that aren't just going to be, yes, this person shows up, yeah, that's what you thought it was going to be, and all the expectations we have. I think the show is going to throw some more stuff at us that are going to be audience get up out of your seats and cheer moments.
Well, yeah, I mean, we haven't even seen a hint of Yelena yet, and we know she's got to pop up at some point in the series, and we're already halfway through. There's only 3 episodes left, folks. It's crazy.
Yeah, like Silva's saying, like the, you know, Loki's glorious purpose bit was better, and it's like, again, that's, to me, that's great for people who know the comics, you know, and are really into the lore, and why seeing classic Loki do that is great for us that us big old comic book nerds, but like for people sitting in the audience at home that don't know classic Loki from, you know, any other kind of Loki, I feel like it hits us a little harder than the entire audience that only knows the MCU.
Sure.
So that that is able to bring the comic book side of the audience and the regular just MCU audience together in those moments, not just ones that are more for one side than the other.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Two little things I did want to point out with the chase. One, there was a moment when she uses the exploding arrow on the van, with a tire where it just messes up. The tire flies off, and that hits the windshield, and that kind of messes up their driving. It's one of the reasons why Clint can't see afterwards. I just like that. So often you have explosions and they happen behind you and it's all boom and fine. You rarely have a hero getting blowback, for consequence from that actual explosion. Well, I guess blowback really would be the perfect word for that. From that actual explosion, which was just one of those little moment choices I liked. Two, the USB arrow. Is that the one from Avengers? Isn't that the one he used in order to get?
I feel like it is.
Yeah, I think that was the callback on that one, which I thought was pretty funny.
Either that, or it could be a reference to What If.
Oh, right.
I mean, technically,
yeah, I like Avengers better for this one, but yeah, it could go either way. All right, so we get their escape, the useful bit of the plunger arrow, and then kind of Hawkeye's admission. Again, that great final scene where they're exhausted. Kate's worried about the dog, and Clint goes, "You're not wrong about being one of the world's greatest archers, or you may be one of the world's greatest archers." I mean, it was one of those cool moments. And then again, like, and then he's asking about the dog. You should probably let the dog out too. They're like, yeah, it's that sync. And that's what kind of, I think, carries through the rest of the episode, which really is kind of mostly just dialogue and character bit. But this is kind of the sweet payoff for all of the action fun that we get. Because we not only start to get this connection, we get, God, one of the bigger gut punches we've had from the MCU from a tiny moment, and it's mostly off of Renner's reaction, and that's Nathaniel's phone call. His little boy calls him up. He can't hear, and Kate's got to kind of serve as translator in the midst of that. I mean, look, I don't tear up a whole lot. Hallmark commercials, sure, but not at a lot of things. And oh man, this really had me going. This is where, again, this is why Renner is so good, so subtly playing that conflict and inner bit of, I'm trying to talk to my kid and I'm feeling the pain. And when Nathaniel goes, or we hear that translation of, "It's okay if you're not home for Christmas. We understand." Oh. So yeah, this is just, to me, this is the meat and the potatoes of it. The action is fun, but these are the great moments where we get to see, again, the cost. And that's really what a lot of this last discussion, these last character bits are the cost of being a hero. What Kate may be getting into, what she has to be sort of aware of. So Rob, why don't you jump in on here first on this kind of story, on our connection, that handoff, the cost of everything to Clint, and why we see why this might be his last adventure, because he doesn't want to do anymore.
Yeah, it's really, I'm liking, one of the reasons I'm liking this conversation is it's the realization of he never wanted any of this. He just wants out. He's seen everybody go. He watched his best friend die, and he's sitting around carrying the guilt of what he did after his family disappeared, and all the wreckage that, while he might have been removing a lot of bad parts off the board, he was creating, traumas unknowingly for other people. The price of revenge and all this other stuff, and him having to not hear what his kid's saying, but knowing what his kid is saying, even from just the pauses. That last pause where you're like, that she's trying to figure out what to say, because it's just so heartbreaking to hear it, and him knowing that, like, that disappointment of not being able to keep a promise to someone that you care about. I'm not a father, but I understand disappointment, and I understand being disappointed by family members and people that you just always, you understand, and it's just him, the way he's trying to tell her about all this is just fantastic, because he's the guy who told Wanda none of this makes sense. He's the guy that will give you that straight, honest, sit you down real talk about the world this is, that I'm not a role model. They might try to prop me up as one. You might think I am, but I'm telling you that all of this that, seems great, and costumes and fun and helping out and everything, it was just really, really, it's something she needs to hear as much as anything else, because she's young, and I remember being young like that and thinking, got forever, I'm invincible and I got forever. And now it's, you get to a certain point and you realize I'm neither of those things. And it's just something I think everybody has to go through. But I think that, she's going to she's hearing him, but some things you just have to experience. But it's nice to get that sentiment out there, because I think it will give her some weight as the show goes on. And will probably not be like real life in the fact that we all just have to go through this, on our own. But there's not a lot of, like you said, that you needed the action sequences and everything that's fun, but the real heart of this is giving the right proper lessons to this person before you head off into the sunset. And the writers are capturing that really great. And if you didn't have somebody like Renner playing this guy for this long, it wouldn't feel so weighty as it does. But not weighty as in, oh, this is dragging it down. It is meat. It is the meat and potatoes that you want out of good story and character. And just really good stuff.
For sure. Don, what did you what do you think about most of the remainder of the episode, which deals with Nathaniel, but the cafe scene where they are talking about the cost of things, the price of what you have, and kind of, that burgeoning sort of reality and relationship there.
I mean, well, it's funny because Kate is still trying to kind of keep it light. She's like, your problem is branding. She makes a wish for him, and he's just kind of like, yeah, no, we have much bigger things to worry about. You're sitting up here drawing costumes. I never wanted any of this stuff. I don't want, attention for any of this. I'm trying to maintain a low profile here, and you're trying to have the thing that's going to put me out directly on Front Street, But just to see the camaraderie that the two of them have formed out of this, because she does look up to him as a mentor. He's somebody that never saw himself as that, but is now starting to come to the realization that, what, yeah, I'm more than just the guy who spent 5 years going around killing members of the underworld because I was upset about my family being gone. Um, yeah, but oh man, that whole scene with him talking to Nathaniel, and at first him thinking it is his wife that called him, and you know, Kate had to tell him like, no, she had things little boy, and he's like, oh my god, you know, man, that was hard because he's got to fake his way through it while she, interprets for him and basically gives him the gist of what Nathaniel is telling him. Um, and when it gets to the part about, I understand if you're not going to be home for Christmas. I'm like, oh God, oh yeah, that one was like a kick to the chest from like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar when he kicked kicked Bruce Lee in the chest in Game of Death. Yeah, um, because even though I'm not a parent either, I mean, just imagine hearing that from anyone that you love. Like, hey, yeah, look, I'll live with the disappointment. I I know you're probably not going to be here for Christmas. I'll just have to deal with the fact that this is my this is my life. And it's just like, oh man, come on. I didn't need that kick in the gut right now. Like, do you know what I'm going through? I have people trying to kill me. You know, yeah, so you gotta feel for Clint there, but you also have to feel for Nathaniel as well. Like he doesn't know what his dad did for all that time, but I'm pretty sure he is well aware that it's like, hey, yeah, every now and then your dad is not going to be here for important things because he has to save the world. And how do you how do you properly explain that to a 5-year old? It's like, yes, you can explain it to them, you can tell them, but that's something they're not going to fully grasp until they're probably in their 20s. you know it's something that they're going to have to look back on and be like, yeah, you know what, listen, when I was a kid, um it really bothered me that you were away during holidays, or you missed my birthday because of whatever. But I go back and watch the archive footage on YouTube or whatever platform will be, you know and it's like, oh, okay, but now I can appreciate the reason why you weren't there. There are people who the world needed you at that moment. Still didn't stop me from needing you, but I can understand now. You know, yeah, and yeah, just the fact that, like, he really didn't want to say goodbye. So he kind of paused there for a minute, and he's just kind of like, hey, okay, that daddy loves you. Oh, okay, you know.
Well, I think what also hits hard with that as well is it does give us that sort of hint into back in time, because of course this is what, 2 years after Endgame. So we'll assume, what is this, the second Christmas afterwards, there's been one. Then for 5 years, kids didn't exist. That's all Dark Ronin bit. So for Clint, this is looking way back to, when he's still a spy and was missing. So now all that loss is coming back with every moment, every holiday that he has missed, all of those things, whether they believe it or not. It's not just what's happening now. This is stuff from pre-Endgame. This is stuff from the MCU almost like a decade before. I guess in a way it kind of was, because 5 years or 4, Nathaniel was, I guess, in the belly at that point. That was because that was supposed to be little Natalia, but they ended up being a boy. So it just shows that long history of those things, like you're saying on. So it hits, I think, kind of extra hard. All right, so we have the cost of being a hero. We have, maybe you get some trick arrows out of it and cool costumes. Maybe we'll work on the branding issue. Before we jump to the end, Wes in the chat has brought up the Ronin costume a couple of times, and I know it's kind of big in the show. But as far as I know, it's effectively just the ninja outfit that Clint wore so he could be a ghost, so he wouldn't be recognized as Clint Barton Hawkeye when he did his run of revenge. I have no idea in the MCU if there's anything else special about that suit, if it has any history, if it is specially armored, treated, concerned. As far as I know, it's just the mysterious guy that was killing underworld figures for a few years. That was his outfit. I guess you want to be recognizable to instill fear. But do you guys have any thoughts or extra knowledge on the Ronin costume? If there's any history or thing to that, or was just in an auction, just put it on?
All I know is that he wasn't the first person to wear it, and he is not the last person to wear it.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, cool. But I don't know anything else.
But I don't know any special powers or anything like that. I just know that it's kind of passed along, like certain other people take on personas of someone who clearly would, couldn't live that long. Like we've seen in like old stuff, like the Phantom or I
was going to say the Phantom type kind of thing. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm good with that. All right. So they've decided that the two of them have to work together. They head to Kate's glorious little abode. Oh, Clint's realizing he's really in the wrong business. To try and do a little dig up, get a little history using Bishop security to get something on Kazi, the Tracksuit Mafia, and of course, for Kate, maybe a little bit of history on Jack, who is our final shot of surprise with the Ronin sword in hand at the throat of the actual Ronin, though he doesn't know that. And we get a few interesting little Easter eggs. I want to jump in, but before I get into that, because that definitely leads into our speculation. Some of it very known, some of it just speculative. You guys got any thoughts on our little bit here, our Jack reveal, what's going on with Bishop Security, and let's especially start talking about Sloan Limited.
Honestly, I didn't really. It happened and then it was the end. I mean, I figured somebody's in the house. Who's it going to be? The Ronin sword was a surprise. The Sloan stuff, to me, is just all shell companies that we're all going to find out. That leads to where we're going anyway with this conversation. All the speculation ends with the big head. Who's the one above? Echo. Who's the one that Clint says that's the person to be really afraid of? Does Clint know who that person is? Because that made me think about the Ronin thing. Like, as part of this, him dealing with Echo's dad and his organization, that means he had to be doing some research So is he just conveniently leaving out who the guy above it all is, or is that just he really doesn't know? Because like in Daredevil, nobody knew who that guy was. Even when you said the name, people are like, "Who the
Right.
hell is that?" Because he was so good at keeping it a secret. So I think it's all going to be really interesting how they're going to play out these events comparatively towards how they did it in the Daredevil series.
Yeah, I think it's a nice way of reintroducing. So yeah, we'll get in. And I brought Sloan up because there was only one Sloan that I could find in the MCU. There's no Sloan Limited as like, there's no Roxxon type equivalent to this. The only Sloan, though, I could find is a Walker Sloan who was from Into the Spider-Verse, CEO of Alchemex, a company we find is later owned by Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin, who is, yes, the big surprise reveal. I mean, it's almost known, but no, we haven't seen anything official. And yeah, this is what I've been waiting for so long, because D'Onofrio is amazing in this role. And it really gives us an idea of where they're going to play with moving in towards the future. So, Don, you have any thoughts here on our final thought, or let's start getting into our speculation of things going forward as well, because we do have a few hints that are kind of dropped around, or that at least we have in our laps that can raise some interesting questions.
First off, let's talk about Kate Bishop's home. Damn you, rich people! Damn you. Listen,
In New York.
Yes, and I know that's a home in New York for real, only because my previous job I actually had to do an inspection because they were building. It was like uh, some foreign dignitary that had a lot of money, had a place on the Upper East Side, and built a private kitchen for whenever they come to New York so they could have their chef. They built a commercial grade, like that you would find in a restaurant kitchen inside of this home that looked something like what we saw on that show. And this was only so they could come there for like 2 weeks out of the year. And yeah, you know, so yeah, screw you, rich people, until I get there. Okay, yeah, until I get there, screw all yous. All right, but it was interesting because even Clint, now mind you, this is somebody who's hung out with Tony Stark, and even he, probably because of the fact that it's been a while and Tony was the only rich guy he was hanging around, was like, the hell, what the, how does the 9-year-old live here? You know, um, so it was interesting to see his reaction to it because yeah, even though he's been around somebody rich, that was only the one somebody. He was probably thinking like, wait, okay, this is how rich people just live, huh? Okay. So he had to come to grips with that first, and then he could move on to the other stuff. You know, and then finding out that, some of the people who they're chasing down are on the payroll of Bishop Securities is like, oh wait, now how did this happen? You know?
Though they're Sloan, they just can get into that information. They just have the, ultimate, I have a security company, so I can get all the information from anywhere type kind of computer system.
Well,
Yeah.
no, that part I got, but it was just kind of like, oh wait, hey, um, these people are actually employed by either us or somebody very close to us. this is not how this is supposed to be happening. So that was pretty interesting. And then obviously we get the final shot of her soon to be stepfather with the Ronin sword at actual Ronin's throat. Probably doesn't even know that that's actually Ronin. So that is going to be interesting. I think that the way that they ended the episode, I'm imagining that the next episode is going to start off with, "Oh, hey, wait, aren't you Hawkeye?" Yada, yada, yada. And it'll be a lot of, "Oh, no, no, Kate's got the wrong idea about me," and it's going to be a whole back and forth with Kate and Clint over whether or not her mom's boyfriend is, just this big time douchebag gangster. So, but interesting way to end the episode.
Indeed, indeed. Yeah, actually, it's interesting because now I know we've got the hint of that Yelena may be coming in, but that also does reveal that there is somebody else that does know that Hawkeye is Ronin, and that's Julia Louise-Dreyfus, Val, because she's got the picture that she shows to Yelena of Hawkeye in the Ronin costume. So I'm wondering, does that mean that Ronin is exposed? That Clint is exposed before the end of this, and that's maybe how we get Yelena sent in to go and get him. Is this a Fisk Valve connection in some way? We're starting to deep into the underworld. It's just, again, it's one of those things where we kind of know that she's supposed to show up, and it's hinted that she's supposed to reveal here. It all makes sense. But no one else is supposed to know that Ronin is Hawkeye, and that's why would Yelena be sent after to get Clint now, of all times? So I'm it sort of gets an interesting idea of where we may be going in these last 3 episodes, because we're through this all really quick. But that means we've got to get Yelena show up, a Fisk reveal. And the last episode, half of it has to be just wrapping up the story. If there's any indication from any of the previous Disney Plus series, they'll have to be the home for Christmas and the getting back and the whole wrap-up scene and the passing torch to Kate. And that's going to take a half hour or so. That's half the episode. So we got kind of a whole lot of different interesting things that are kind of set up to go. We also have Kazi talking about the Tracksuit Mafia needing to lay low. We're supposed to be laying low. Why? Is this laying into what is Fisk building up? If that is in fact him, playing with the speculation. So, do you guys have any thoughts or any kind of like final little bits or questions that are sort of in your mind? You're hoping to be revealed, or any other little Easter eggs and bits that we had missed?
I just don't think that. I think that the Yelena thing and the Julia Louise-Dreyfus thing isn't really going to play that big a part in this. I know that they play things very close to the vest as far as like letting us know what's coming, but with 4 episodes. Right. No. 3 episodes left. I feel like that's and about let's say 40 minutes. Let's say without credits. I just don't see them resolving any of that. I think that that's going to be saved for something else. I think she'll be here, but I think it'll be more of like an end of this kind of thing, moving like, because I don't think Clint's done after this. I think that.
Oh, really?
No, I mean, I think that I don't think Hawkeye. I think he's going to be gone for the most part, but I don't think they're going to resolve the Hawkeye Yelena thing in this. I think they'll be saving that for something else. as far as the ultimate conflict, because there's just too much going on. There's too many things going on in this show to be wrapped up in 3 episodes. We don't know what's going to be going on with Jack. We don't know what's going to be going on with Vera Farmiga's character. We still got Fisk. We still got more of Echo. We've got the whole Ronin thing, and then somewhere in there, Kate's got to become who she's going to become. It's just too many. It's too many things for what they're trying to do. So that's where I would say.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think you are right. That is there's a lot of stuff that they have to cover, and that's why I'm thinking. I'm like, that's why I was asking. I have no idea how they're going to do that. And if you think they're going to hold on that, which would make sense if you have a movie not specifically relying on a series to continue its story. I mean, the MCU movies have all of their end credits and mid credits. Okay, well, they've had to because only movies have existed up till now. So, but obviously they're referring to the next big film. It would be interesting if their end credits actually do give a sneak preview to one of the Disney Plus series. And I would love to see more of the character as well. So I certainly hope they do.
Even with the Kingpin stuff, I don't expect too much screen time for whoever's playing Kingpin. I mean, it's D'Onofrio, but I wouldn't bet any money on seeing Daredevil.
No,
I wouldn't bet any. Like I think when we start to smell what they're sending us, we get really excited that we're going to see so much. But really, we've got so much to contend with just what's already going on, that all the other stuff is just going to be window dressing, and all just going to be little extras to jump off of for the greater world, and the hope that we get a new Daredevil series, which will open up the street level stuff again, and the potential for what Disney Plus will be able to do with Moon Knight, and maybe returning of Jessica Jones and Iron Fist and Luke Cage and all these guys that could all start showing up. These are all just little tastes that we're getting, again, setting up more potential for us never ever getting rid of Disney Plus for our natural born lives.
Between this and Star
Wars,
Wars,
smart about dragging things out, or teasing us for the future, and then once we get there, it'll be great. Right now, I'm just more interested in what they're going to do to resolve what's happening now, and worry about the other stuff when it gets here.
Hey, if they focus on just the subtle world building for the rest of this, I am totally fine with that. I'm right with you. Don, did you have any thoughts or insights on that?
I mean, as far as going forward is concerned, it's going to be interesting to see, how much of this are they going to wrap up. I imagine that we're going to get a season 2. There's going to be some big reveal, and you can't just leave it on the cliffhanger and like, okay, that was Clint's story. Okay, we're out of here. Can't do that. I think obviously they want to build up Kate Bishop, so I think that this season is kind of the mentor finding the mentee to take over, but I think we're not going to get the transition until maybe the next season. I think you need one more season of misadventures with Hawkeyes, and then at the end of next season, it's like, all right, you know what? Hey, look, I think you can finally do this. You're 10 now. We've been doing this for a year. You're no longer 9. You're 10 years old now. And so I think I can finally, give you this custom made, Stark bow, because everything is Stark tech. I think I can finally give you this custom made Stark bow, and you can go off and be Hawkeye, and I'm going back to the farm. So that's going to be interesting when that finally happens. Echo obviously is getting her own series, so I think we might get maybe one more episode with Echo, maybe two. I think she's going to be pushed more into the background a bit, but still play a prominent enough role that it's like, hey, I'm still here. Don't forget, I'm going to have my own series. So, remember how awesome I was here. Um, yeah,
Well,
and again, I just think that other than that, the Kingpin reveal, I hope they really don't do the whole thing. I saw a meme earlier with I don't know if you guys ever saw Shazam, but the very end where it's supposed to be, Superman shows up, but it's not Henry Cavill. Yeah, so I really hope they don't do that to us. That would be like, oh come on, no, you can't run around kicking us in the balls like that, please. This is all we have to live for as nerds. So I hope they don't do that to us, especially after they decanonized so many damn shows that we love. Just even if it's just a glimpse of Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin, where it's just like, you know what, I'm getting tired of these superheroes, and then it just cuts to black after that, and then the Hawkeyes and Kingpin will be back in season 2, kind of thing.
Well, I think they may actually use that to lead in with the Echo series, because obviously Disney likes to focus on heroes, or at least if you have a villain, it is a villainous turn to a heroic journey, which is what we might be seeing with our Echo series. And they may use that to, like Rob, you were mentioning, be our transition into the more street level stuff. We could thus start to bring back our Daredevils and Fisks and these characters through this kind of like back door. And look, I know there's been a lot of debate here on we're going to make things canon. Are things canon? Are they not canon? I'm of the camp of, if I get to see more of these awesome actors playing these awesome roles that I like to see them in, I don't care. It's a multiverse. Is it another verse? Is it this verse? Is it acknowledged? Is it not acknowledged? Is it a soft reboot? Is it? I don't care. Bring back Vincent D'Onofrio playing Kingpin. Very excited that Spider-Verse, with the rumors of you having Charlie Cox show up. Is he Daredevil? I don't care. He can just be Matt Murdock walking through a scene, and he's in the MCU, and that means we get to see more of him later on. Okay? You want to bring back Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? If Clark Gregg shows up as Phil Coulson, I don't care how you explain it. Because you get a Fitz and Simmons in there too. You can get a May. That opens the doors to, they can have all of these and just say, yeah, this is Fitzsimmons, and you don't have to talk about a background. Yeah, this is Kingpin, and we'll play with acknowledging or not acknowledging any of this past stuff. Who cares? We get more of awesome people playing awesome roles. Isn't that what we want?
Listen, what I want is for them to make Agents canon again, all right?
No, but that means they'd have to make season 5 canon. I said it out loud. I'm fine up through seasons 1 through 4. Okay, you will have me. You had me at season 4. You had me at season 4. All right, I think that's enough bad stuff. Oh, one thing I did make a note for. I wanted to make a mention. Trust a Bro moving company for the Tracksuit Mafia. That's their moving company. Come on.
Bro,
why are the Russians saying bro? Oh,
bro.
also, I just happened to throw on All Hail the King, the little Marvel one-shot with Trevor Slattery in jail. They show the shot of Trevor's failed, unpicked up pilot, Caged Heat, and in there is the Tracksuit Mafia. There is a single shot of tracksuit wearing Russian gangsters fleeing from Trevor Slattery's I don't know if he's a cop or PI or whatever in the show. Anyway, I sent it out on Twitter. You can catch that. You can throw on Disney Plus and catch it on there. It's only like 12 minutes long, the whole thing. So just a fun little Easter egg. Does it mean something? Who cares? It's the MCU. They get to have fun with this. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything. So next week, we will have Alyssa Jean from Alyssa Jean's Reviews joining Rob and I to further discuss this episode. But of course, Don will be returning with us in just a couple of weeks when Fandalorians comes back to cover Book of Boba Fett. So Thursdays are going to be filled with Marvel and Star Wars for weeks to come, folks. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Don, tell people where they can find you and what you're doing and any other final thoughts you got.
Well, bro, you can find me here with my friends. Yes. Like I said, you can find me here on these reviews or smirking reviews instead of smirking gun. What happened? But unfortunately, I'm not gonna be able to do The Expanse. It hurts. But of course, Fandalorians, I'll be around for that, and I am in the new year finally gonna start putting out those House of the Dragon videos. Yeah, man. Finally gonna get back to it. But until then, whenever one of these two gentlemen has me on their channel or someone else has me on their channel, you can find me there. And on Twitter. Damn, I haven't tweeted in a while. I Don Willi. That's IDonWilli. Again, thank you very much for having me here, good sir. And this was awesome. And go Hawkeye.
Always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure. Rob, what about yourself over at the new Smirking Reviews? What you doing? And where else can people find you?
Big changes. We're at the channel. A lot of things are happening. A lot of things are still getting worked on. But there's 3 channels now. There's Smirking Reviews, which is the main channel, which was Smirking Gun Reviews. I dropped the gun. There's a video talking all about this stuff, so we don't have to talk about it here. But there's reasons for all of this. But right now, I'm mostly covering Wheel of Time on my channel. I just released the newest episode right before I went on here tonight. We've got Cowboy Bebop. I'm probably just gonna make one more Cowboy Bebop video because I have some things to say about that just in general. Otherwise, eventually, when I get things worked out, you'll find Smirking Reviews Classics and Smirking Reviews Comics up and running once I get all the tweaks and things worked out, where you can see all the other content that I'm known for over there. Otherwise, that's about it. You find me here every week, whether it's going to be talking about Hawkeye or whether we're talking about Boba Fett. It's all good in the hood. Can't wait to discuss it with all these guys. And Don, good to see you, man. It's been a while. So really happy to finally be able to talk to you about some stuff again. So hopefully you'll be back for another one of these.
It's good to have the classic gang back together.
Yes.
Want to be sure to give thanks to Wes Sager, Silver Surfer, and Mercenary X84 joining us live in the chat. Really appreciate you guys taking the time. And of course, everybody in the archives that are also taking their time. My brother included. Hi, Mike. I understand that you watch all my shows. Thanks for your support. Want to be sure to thank all of you guys for watching these shows and sharing them and just being part of it. It's why we do this. We just love talking with these shows and with you guys. So please throw any comments down and we'll see if we can get to any questions we can with our next show. But that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much. You can catch me, of course, here every week. I'm at Twitter at Darren Jakes, which is right there on the little feed thing. And we'll catch you guys next week. Thanks so much. Take it easy. And bye-bye.
Damn rich people.